Okay, in this segment what we're going to do is we're going to transfer our cartoon to what's illustration board, and I'll explain that in a minute. We're going to also use this as just an opportunity to practice some other kind of skills. So initially I want to show you this illustration board. An illustration board is basically a good piece of drawing paper, and it's glued to a piece of cardboard. In this case, it's from Dick Blick. This is there's two different kinds of illustration board that's pretty common. One is hot press and one is cold press. Hot press is a much smoother surface. It's better for pencils, but then cold press is usually made more for wet media like watercolors. Also, it has a little bit of more of a tooth. It's rougher, so you could use pastels, colored pencils, all different kinds of things. And in this case, it's going to be cold press. I mean, this is hot press. It is a piece of paper or a piece of illustration board that is 10 by 15, which is a little odd size, and so I'm going to just use this opportunity to measure and practice that a little bit. This is a lot more expensive than regular paper. You can get it at Michael's or Hobby Lobby or another art supply store like Dick Blick. Usually comes in larger sheets like 20 by 30, sometimes anywhere between $5 and $10 for a sheet like that big. But it is much more stable than a piece of paper. It'll accept the erasing a little bit better, and also accept a little bit of water, so it will curl eventually a little bit, but not nearly what a piece of paper would. So initially what we're going to do is that we have hopefully you'll be able to see this in red. We have a piece of paper that is, or the illustration board, it's 10 by 15, and what we're going to do is we're going to try to center our image on that happens to be 8.5 by 11. So in order to do that, we have to kind of do a little subtraction here. So it's overall it's 10 inches this way, it's only 8.5 inches that way, so we have an 1.5 inch difference. So if we split that in half, then we have 0.75 or 3/4 of an inch and 3/4 of an inch on this side. Then down here it's 15 inches, but it's only 11-inch image that we want. So we have a difference of 4, so we divide that by 2, and then we have 2 inches down here, 2 inches up here. So that'll make up the 15 inches. So I'm going to do this much darker than what I would in real life, just so you can pick it up on the video. So we have the side margins are 3/4 of an inch. So get my ruler out. And a lot of times good rulers, let me zoom in here a little bit. Good rulers will have a starting place not at the very end of the ruler. That way if it gets damaged, it gets knocked or whatever, it's not really ruining the measuring ability. So remember to always start right here and not at the end of the ruler. So let me zoom back out. So right now we don't necessarily know where 2 inches is, but what we can do is put that on 0 and then 3/4 of an inch. Put a little mark, and we want to go in the direction that the line is going to go. So the line's going to go this way, so we want to put the mark there. And we're going to do it again down here somewhere. It doesn't make any difference. And then I'm going to take my ruler, and I have to use a longer ruler because this is 15 inches and my ruler's only 10 or 12. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll put my pencil on the mark, run my ruler up against it, and then I'll rotate my ruler till I hit the next line. That way my pencil kind of holds it in place. And notice that my hand is spread out. It's not on the other side, so I don't have to do any gymnastics with my fingers. So I've got a clear shot here. I've got it on the right hand side of me so that I can move my whole arm. And I'm going to put a light line, and I'm going to draw it really dark so you guys can see it, but you would do it very light so that we don't have to erase very much. And we do the same thing over here. 3/4 of an inch, 3/4 of an inch. Put my ruler down, put my pencil down, lean it up against there, and rotate my ruler around and draw a line. Now I need 2 inches down from the top, so I'm gonna start it at 0, put a little mark at 2. I don't even have to do it right there. I can put 2 inches here, and then I can use this ruler this time. Put my pencil down to hold it, rotate it around, and now I can go exactly to that mark. And the same thing is true here. Now I could have made it easier for you and cut the paper, but I wanted an opportunity to measure a little bit. 2, put my mark here. Now I want to make sure though that I'm putting that mark in the direction that I'm going to draw the line. I don't want to put a mark this way at 2 inches, because if I do that, then where am I measuring from? Is it this mark? Is it this mark, or is it this part? So if I'm putting it this way, I'm going in the right direction. So anywhere along that mark will be an accurate measurement. So now, obviously that's way too dark, and you could erase that. That's why I said draw super light, so that this doesn't require any real erasing like mine does. Okay, so anyway, got that. And my paper is just a little bit too big, so now what I'm going to do is I've got my printout, and it's 8.5 by 11, so I can test it by putting it right on top, and you can see if it's the right size. Okay, so you can see that it's the right size. If it's not, then we need to change it right then. All right, now I'm going to use a red marker. You would use a pencil. A lot of times people will grid this off and use mathematical, or like I have to measure like every inch or every half an inch. Well, it could kind of pose a little bit of a problem, especially if it's not an even half inch. Here I could go every half an inch and be fine, and then half inch, but I'd have all of these lines in here. But sometimes it's like an irregular size, so like it's 7 3/8. So how do I divide that up? And I'd have to do a lot of math. In this case, I don't have to do that as much. All I have to do is draw corner to corner, and this will give me the exact center. So I'm going to, again, maybe put my pencil right here on the corner, rotate my ruler up, and I'm going to draw a diagonal. And the same thing is true here. Now you can do this as precise as you want. I'm using it as just as a guideline. I could measure what the center of it is, but if I draw a line straight up through the middle, that's going to be good enough for our purposes. But you could be as precise as you'd like. I'm going to do the same thing through here. Now, depending on how detailed I need to make it is how many more divisions that I need to make, because now I've got a rectangle again. And so I can make another diagonal line. That's the exact center of that rectangle. And I could divide that up further. Go straight through the middle, straight through the middle. Probably it would be more accurate if I did this all at the same time. Go through the middle here. And I could do that down here as well. Here I'm just going to show you this way. So I've got that all divided up, and I want to do the same kind of divisions on this. So I'm going to draw this in pencil, but I'm still going to do it way darker than I would in real life. So I go here and here. See, I didn't have to measure anything. I just have to make sure that this is reasonably straight up and down, and this is reasonably straight across. This is way faster than gridding it off in rectangles. And I'll here. Here. This is probably the way I should have done it. On the other one, I was trying to go a little faster, but this is, I can make all those divisions. Now I can go through the middle here. That'll save me a little bit of time. And through the middle here. And then also through the middle here. So the number of divisions that I put on my reference is how many divisions I need to put on here. Okay, so now we're all ready to go. So we have these reference points, and I could maybe need to put some more in here because there's a lot of things going on in this little segment. Not much going on out here, so I really didn't need that, but I do need it in here. So now it takes a little bit of drawing. So this is not the cure-all. It doesn't, you're not really tracing. You still have to draw, you still have to compare, but it just gives you some guidelines, especially if you're doing this monstrously large, okay? And so I did this with pencil, but let's say that we have something on a 4x8 sheet of plywood or even larger than that. I would draw this without a ruler. I would do it with a chalk line. I want to show you real quickly what that chalk line looks like here. Okay, so that's how I would scale something up really, really large, and it makes it pretty easy. But here, I'm just going to start looking for different things, like where is his head compared to this line and compared to this corner. So it's somewhere in here, and that line kind of continues down below this line. So I would try to get that same kind of angle. I'm going to draw light because I'm going to make some mistakes, I'm sure. Now let's look at his hair. Where is this point? It's a little bit below this line, so maybe somewhere in here. And then this piece of hair comes beyond the center line. The point comes in here. Now look at this one. There's a little bit of a gap, but it doesn't come as far as that line. So it comes here, and it comes down almost to that line. Now this one comes just a little bit past the center. I'm not going to draw this whole thing, so you don't have to worry. But I'm using this as a reference. I'm constantly looking at how these things match up, how they relate. So this little gap here, where the two pieces come together, is a little bit below this line. So I know I have to be in here. This one doesn't touch the line. Then the other part of his head comes down and then starts to turn, and it gets about right here. His neck comes out that way. Now his ear is above this line. Now his eye and his nose and this is a lot more complex. So what sometimes I do is I will put another set of lines in here to give me a little more precision, where I don't have to do that on the whole piece, and that will save me some erasing. So now I've subdivided that. I could even subdivide it even more let's just do that right here first. But I don't need to do it over here because there's nothing there. But this gives me an idea that I know that now this eyebrow comes clear up to here. Maybe I can even put one more right there. And so that eyebrow just comes right down along that line. So I've got this, and it just goes a little bit beyond the center. And curls. And this other eyebrow comes right to there. So this really gives you kind of a little map to where to go. So now this eye circles around here, kind of hits this line just a little bit beyond that line right here. Zoom in a little bit more. So go around, then the pupil kind of is bisected by that line. I got the little reflection here. The other eye comes around, but it doesn't touch this line, so I know where to stop. And then the nose starts right underneath that gap, comes down, and then goes beyond this line. And angles back up. And then his mouth comes on up almost to his eye, so it crosses this middle line. His teeth are here. Comes right to the joint of that line right there, or the join of those two lines. And so I'm just going to continue on and on and on, and I'm going to make mistakes, so I've got to really draw lightly. Then when I'm all done and I'm satisfied with it, then I can erase this. So it's really important that we are not using really expensive paints, so they're a little bit transparent. So especially the yellows are going to be pretty transparent. So we really need to make sure that we're able to get rid of all these lines, all these construction lines. So we've got to draw light. I'm drawing way darker than I would because I want it shows up a little bit better on video. Okay, so you're just going to work your way down and transfer that whole thing down. Really concentrate on where these things hit these different segments, and you'll have a really good proportioned drawing if you're careful that way. Okay, so that's the next segment. So we'll talk about paint then in the next video.